Perfect. All right. Thank you all to those of you who could join us today for our virtual work session. Hopefully you guys all got the agenda and you guys got kind of that timeline table that we kind of set out, kind of working backwards from the launch date of September 7th. So those were kind of the ahead of time materials. We will be going over all of that as well today. So, so don't worry if you didn't get a lot of time to dive into those. So for those of you who are new here, I don't think that the only name I don't recognize is Bryce, and I'm assuming that you're a member of the public. My name is Carrie. I work with Southwest Decision Resources. We're the facilitators for the Plan Sedona community engagement portion of the plan update. Our meeting objectives today are really to kind of refine all the nuts and bolts, of which there are very many, for the kickoff event on September 7th. And then if we have time, dive into a little bit of the community listening and learning sessions. But we have a lot of details to go over regarding the September 7th launch date and all things pertaining to that. So we're going to discuss some materials and promotional information. You guys had a great idea. I think that was you, Mike, last time about a pitch. Well, I think it was Marcy also, to get people excited. So Keegan has kind of put together a draft outline of what that could look like. We need to talk about what working group members would be willing to be videoed to be part of this short video clip pitch for the effort. And then kind of what all of your roles are moving forward. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and do some working group updates. You can introduce yourself quickly and provide any updates pertaining to the community plan update, anyone you've talked to, things that you've heard in your community as it pertains to this. I'm going to go down the participant list because that's easier for me than trying to remember who has talked. We'll start with working group and then we'll do city afterwards. So Brian, you're up.
Thanks, Carrie. Brian Foltz, happy to be here. No update since last time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. Linda.
Brian here. No updates. He's our new city council member.
Oh,
congratulations, Brian.
Well, congratulations. That's an update.
Thank you.
That's very exciting.
It is, but it's not about the community plan per se.
Right.
So.
Well.
And Carrie, that's what
thank you, Rick, for outing me.
And I have nothing for the community plan either.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anne? No, nothing. Okay. Marcy.
Hi, Marcy Taylor. I don't have any updates.
Okay. Mike.
Nope, nothing to add.
This is going to be so quick. Monica. We can't hear you.
I am Monica Garland. No updates, technologically challenged.
It's all right. And then wait, moved around on my list. Rick.
Nothing to add.
Great. Cynthia and Jess, any updates that we should know about?
No. Still.
We are unmuted.
We are unmuted. No, just excited to take care of all the details to have this fun kickoff meeting.
Cool. That's great. Keegan, do you have any updates aside from the portion of the agenda you're going to go over?
Nope.
Great. And Jessica, do you have any updates? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry, everyone. I'm having a bit of technical difficulties on my own, but I can hear everybody. I've got the notes going on my computer and I'm just going to Zoom from my phone. So sorry if I drop it or anything else, but nice to see everybody.
Great. Thank you. Well, that just went way faster than I had anticipated, which is great. We will have a portion at the end of the meeting that will be for public comment for those of you who are here as part of the public. We'll have time to hear from you at the end.
Can I just add that Bryce and Zach are with our sustainability program?
See, I didn't know that Bryce was with sustainability, and I see that Zach just logged in. So thank you for that.
How's it going, everyone?
Okay, so when we're talking about this kickoff event, I am going to go ahead and find the right screen to share, because that would be a bummer if I didn't share the right one. Okay. Let's see. Can you all see this? Hopefully it's big enough. You guys can all see it. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So regarding venue and logistics, we have secured the SPAC. We have submitted all of our paperwork for that. So we have that September 7th from 3 p.m., noting that the event starts at 5, but for all the prep that we're going to need to do when we're there, from 5 until 8, and also recognizing that the event ends at 7. But, you know, trying to get everybody kind of out and take care of the end of the night things, we have it until 8. A little bit of kind of, I'm assuming all of you have been there at some point, those of you who live in Sedona. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. Lots of parking, which is always a plus. A great entrance for interactive activities, which we'll go over in a minute. And then a really nice auditorium with a speaker, and we're gonna reach out to someone to help us with the tech part, as far as microphones, if they short presentation, there's a screen there, etc. So, and please, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you guys to use your raise your hand function if you guys have questions, because I have a hard time sharing screen and being able to see everybody's faces. So please let me just go ahead and use your raise your hand function on the Zoom to let me know that you guys have a question. So as far as the timing of the evening regarding events specifically, we'll talk about all of our roles and what time we all need to be there. But for the event, it's going to start at 5 p.m. There's going to be refreshments and those interactive activities in kind of that big foyer area. Presentation and program will start at 5:30. We are going to have ample discussion regarding presenters, keynote speakers, who, what makes the most sense, etc. in a little bit, but that will start at 5:30. We're anticipating a keynote speaker, a local speaker, if those two aren't the same, aren't both local, I guess I should say, an overview kind of welcome from SDR and city staff, as well as a presentation on what this is and what are we kicking off, with ample time for question and answer. So that goes from 5:30 to 6:30, and then 6:30 to 7 is just time for folks to do more interactive activities if they didn't get all of them done at the beginning, as well as networking, if they want to pull someone aside and ask a specific question, if that's for city or if that's for facilitation or one of you as representatives of the work group. And then we'll be rounding that whole thing out at 7 p.m. That's the overview and timing of the evening. Any questions on that specific thing? Nope. Fantastic. We're just whipping through this today. All right. So when people come in, we will have 2 registration tables kind of at the entrance. People will be receiving kind of a cardstock postcard that has the agenda on one side for the evening, and on the back, a schedule of all these opportunities to engage. So they can take that with them. They can understand what the plan is for the evening, and then hopefully take that home and recognize that they can, you know, register for Zoom links for the listening and learning session, stay tuned for more, what's the website for the Plan Sedona, so they can find out more information. In addition to that, they will have an index card that basically has name, email, and a bunch of lines where they can write questions, they can write comments, they can provide feedback, and those will be collected at the end of the evening. So throughout all of this, we're soliciting as much feedback, questions, comments, etc. as we go. All right, here is where we get into the nitty-gritty when we are talking about the program itself. So we'll talk about the interactive activities after we talk about potential speakers. So we've had a little bit of feedback from some of you regarding who the keynote speakers or presenters should be, or could be, I guess I should say, not necessarily should. We have a call with the city of
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed at
Whoa, my phone just called, my watch phone just called somebody. Sorry about that. We have a call with the city of Sedona and John O'Brien tomorrow. It seemed like all of you were on board with having him as a potential, whether that is for this kickoff event or for a subsequent listening and learning session. But it seemed like there was a lot of agreement that he is a charismatic speaker, he's local, and that he could be a good asset, especially pertaining to the kickoff event. Is that accurate? I just want to make sure first from all of you who do know him or who have a recommendation for that.
I'm sorry for not knowing, but I don't know if I know who John O'Brien is.
Great, neither do I, but someone who does, I would be more than happy to hear who he is.
I guess I could explain.
Sure.
John O'Brien is a former community development director, which is the position that Jess is now in.
Three back?
Yeah.
Three
back. So he was in that job almost since incorporation, if not. He basically worked for the city, I think, at incorporation, and then a few years later became the community development director. So he would be able to speak to the history since incorporation from a land development perspective. Plus he is, like you said, rather charismatic. So
he's got a great positive perspective. He really, he was the community development director. He's a planner, and he sees the positive. You know, I talked to him last week, and he really talked about how great the volunteerism is in the community, and I think he's a fun, positive person to inspire people to be involved in this process.
Others' thoughts? I saw your chat, Brian and Mike. So those are thumbs ups from you guys regarding having John speak.
So this is Linda. John used to do like a little comedy sketch. He would sort of playfully offend everybody at the chamber mixers, and it was a morning type of a show. But I think John's good. I'm in favor of John, no doubt. But I'm just wondering why 15 minutes, or is that for everyone?
That's for everyone. So
Okay.
that's kind of, you know, the keynote speech. So the welcome would ideally be the mayor, you know, the kind of that, thank you everybody for coming. We would have, you know, the mayor, someone from the city, whether that would be Cynthia or Jess, you know, one working group member and one member of our team, SDR, be like, you know, so that they're seeing a mix of thank you so much for coming. We really are excited about getting all of your feedback. Someone else would say thank you. As a member of the working group, we're really looking forward to. So the welcome would be short little saying the actual words welcome from 4 people likely. And then the keynote speakers or the speakers would be someone who we have yet to decide, John O'Brien, and potentially one of you as a work group member, really just talking about what this means and how this is important to the community and how this affects the future of Sedona, kind of in tandem with John and a keynote speaker. So that together would take 15 minutes. Does that make sense, Linda?
It does, it does. And I wanted to throw something out, and it could be part of what John says. And that is, and I was looking at some of the information that Marcy sent. And I looked at another site. I hope to save it, and I don't know where I saved it somewhere. I'm just not sure where. But what it is, and what I liked is when they started out, and it was actually a community plan meeting for the community. And I love the idea of starting out with something positive about what we all love about Sedona. So that could be something great when they come in, you can have a positive board in that activity where they can write on it, like a huge blackboard or white, something that's that chalk looking, and everybody writes all over it what we like about it. And then John's really good at bringing out playfully, like, one of the things I love about Sedona is we argue over the smallest thing, but it's still our neighbor, we're still neighbors and we care about each other. It's things like that that he'll put on the table, and it'll be said, which is nice.
Great. Thanks, Linda. That really cues up kind of our conversation that we're going to have with Keegan about all of you telling us what you guys love about Sedona. So I like that. Hopefully we can capture quite a bit of that on video, as well as asking the same things from the community. And we have a little bit of that kind of stuff further down here when we talk about those interactive activities. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank you for that, Linda. As others' thoughts on John O'Brien, I just want to make sure that we're okay with that. Seems like he has a bit of history with the city, and seems like many of the community members already know who he is. A little bit more of that kind of local flavor. Okay. All right, so I'm seeing some thumbs up in the chat box. I will, if for some reason you're not comfortable with that, please raise your hand, put it in the chat box. You can message me separately if you don't feel like bringing it up now, but this is kind of the time when we need to refine this, because we have a month and we want to make sure that we get those asks in writing out to folks, so they have time to prepare. Okay. So for the keynote speaker, there's a couple of directions that the group could go in kind of deciding on how we go about this. There is the additional local person, which his name is Tom Binnings. Is that right, Marcy? Yeah. Okay. So you sent us his information. Molly also agreed. Molly Spangler from Economic Development also agreed that he has a lot to offer. I did not write his name in here, but I will do that right now. He is on the board of VV Rio as well. I don't know, Marcy, if you want to, give a little background since you do know him, just to tell the group who he is.
Sure. Tom he's an economist. He runs a consulting firm that advises cities and towns on their economies and how they're growing, et cetera. I met him because we served on the Economic Diversification Strategic Planning Committee together. He's the chair-elect of VV Rio. He's wonderful. I do work with a company called Thomson Reuters, and they had a need for a speaker at the last minute in Pebble Beach, and he went and he did the program, and they were thrilled with him. So I've never seen him speak publicly. I've only heard him speak in meetings and everything, but he has a really good perspective. And what we were talking about last time was kind of a futurist of sorts that can talk about what is work life going to look like, what are families going to look like, what's housing going to look like. And I think he can deliver that 30,000 foot view. And I also got input from friends about a couple of those other organizations that are there. I don't feel strongly either way, but I did reach out to Tom, and he said he would be happy, if we wanted him to participate, he'd be happy to. He's a really, really smart and very kind guy.
Great. Thanks, Marcy. And I think he also has the added layer that he is from the Verde Valley. So while being able to give the 30,000-foot view, he probably also has, you know, a little bit more realism, recognizing that Sedona probably is in his backyard, and he probably more intimately understands challenges and opportunities that Sedona may face. So there's that option, which is, you know, someone who can look at the kind of 30,000-foot view, as well as being someone from a local community. There's benefits to that. There's also, you know, there's the other side, which is someone who doesn't know Sedona intimately, but that can speak to how other cities and towns have gone through, you know, kind of looking into the future regarding planning. So I don't know if anybody wants to, you know, provide not necessarily a counter argument, but any points that they think pro or con for at least reaching out to Tom and seeing if he's available, if he's willing. We haven't done that. Oh, maybe we did reach out to him. I think we have an email out, but we haven't heard back since we emailed a few people, and then we were like, you know what, we want to get the work group feedback on kind of which direction we want to go, but also recognizing that if you guys didn't want to go the Tom Biddings route, maybe he could be kind of a co-convener for the learning and listening session regarding economic vitality and economic diversity. So does anybody have any other thoughts on asking him specifically, or thoughts about, you know, having someone local versus someone who's from out of town with like kind of a bigger view of things when we're talking about the keynote speaker, recognizing John O'Brien lives there. He's been involved in community planning in Sedona well into like past and still lives there, but as kind of that broader keynote speaker, any thoughts from you all about, yes, someone local, or no, we need someone who doesn't have ties necessarily to Sedona?
Carrie, I'm not finding my hand waving. I think your image is in front of it. It's just not popping up today, but
okay.
So sorry about that, but
just like
for
this.
me, okay, it doesn't matter if it's local or not. To me, it's that that view from 30,000 feet that Marcy mentioned, and that is, what is the next 10 years going to look like in our country, in our state, in, you know, what will work look like? What will retirement look like? What will, you know, what will families want? Young people want? That's the kind of thing I want to know. And so I thought we were going to go through a couple more people. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm hoping you guys can kind of help winnow this down, right? We have reached out to Strong Towns. They have kind of like a speaker request form on their website. So we're setting up a conversation with them, recognizing they obviously do enough speaking engagements that they have a speaker request form on their website. So, so we are reaching out to them, but these are the kinds of things, and thank you for queuing that up, Linda, as far as like, what kind of big picture questions do we want them to address? What is the, you know, for, you know, towns and cities in the Southwest with high levels of tourism and environmental beauty, and in a state that's growing like Arizona is, how is community planning helping you look to the future, right? Like community planning, and how does that speak to what families will look like, and jobs will look like, and schools and local shops and transportation, all those questions that you guys are bringing up. So it's good for us to know, you know, kind of how to steer a potential keynote speaker and what to address. So thank you for that. So we've also reached out to Kimber Lanning with Local First. Molly Spangler also has nothing but wonderful things to say about her. She could also participate, ideally, if not as a keynote speaker, as someone in one of the listening and learning sessions as well. And then trying to think. So we reached out to a couple of our colleagues to ask about, and they gave us these three here at the bottom. Susan Goldberg is the ASU, she's the Vice Dean of Journalism, and she also happens to be a National Geographic photo editor and content editor. Daniel Kemmis, who is the author of a book called Community and the Politics of Place. And then Luther Probst, who is the retired executive director of the Sonoran Institute. So those are 3 recommendations that come from our colleagues, having heard those people speak at events. And I don't have a long bio, unfortunately, for each one of these, but they come recommended. So that to me is at least one check in the pro column for them.
Looks like Luther's from Jackson Hole.
From where?
Jackson Hole.
Okay, yes.
So he might have some similar experiences or something to say.
Right.
About communities that are experiencing what we are.
Linda, I saw your hand waving.
Oh, yeah. Can you say more about Daniel Kemmis and the community and the politics of place?
Oh gosh, let me stop sharing for just 1 second. I'm gonna find that email real quick so I can tell you what.
Has anybody heard of him?
Just Googling him now.
Let's see. This is from our colleague Larry Fisher, who is an ASU, or not an ASU, a U of A professor. He says that he's seen him give keynote talks, and he can be very thoughtful and quite provocative in his questions. He also has a LinkedIn profile. So for those of you who are on LinkedIn. And then for Luther, he lives in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and it looks like he's running for county commissioner there, which would give him, potential additional, street cred as far as, being a local county commissioner can speak also to.
I think he used to live in Tucson.
Yeah, as the environmental or executive director of Sonoran Institute. Yep, as well.
And so when we said Susan Goldberg, and she's the vice dean of the School of Journalism, that's interesting. They do a lot of, they're understandable. They're a little bit, when they write, it's not quite as academic, even if it's a complex notion. But I'm just curious about how is she qualified to do what we're looking for? What was the
thought there?
Yeah.
Let me just double check and see what that's from our colleague Michael Schoon, who teaches in she is linked with the Arizona State University sustainability work. I'm just reading on what she said. Let's see.
Looks like this Luther is also the founder of the Sonoran Institute. That's what its bio says. There was another person on the list too, Duke something.
Yeah, Duke. I don't know if it's reader or writer, and he was suggested by John Sather. And we have reached out to him as well. And what John had to say was, so he is a senior advisor to the president for ASU. He's the executive director of University City Exchange. Little bio says, over the past 20 years, Ryder has played numerous roles: academic administrator, faculty member, architect, urban designer, community leader, and public artist. In the course of his career, he has established a track record of highly effective partnerships with public office holders, the business community, nonprofit groups, professional organizations, and private sector developers. He was a key player in the conceptualization and creation of the award-winning downtown Phoenix campus for ASU. He is presently a national trustee of the Urban Land Institute. So that's his little bio. So I guess maybe the bigger question for everyone, and I know that this is like, we can go down the route of reaching out to all of these people and seeing who's involved, like who's interested and available. But I guess what we're trying to gauge from you all is, because you guys live in Sedona, because you guys have networks within the community, because you guys have a little bit more of your fingers on the pulse of how community members will receive someone who's local versus someone who's from the outside. How should we go about, kind of narrowing the list down? Or do we broadcast it out and then see who's available and go from there? We're happy to do whichever. I guess I'm just trying to get some feedback from you all about thoughts on a direction.
And we've got some comments in the chat,
Yeah.
Carrie, about some express local.
Yeah. So, and I see that you wrote you prefer someone who can speak about Sedona with firsthand knowledge and insight. Did you have additions to that comment?
I'm looking at the overall schedule, and I think we need to make sure that we do leave time for the people who come to actually engage in those other activities that you're talking about. And right now we only have 30 minutes. So I would, if I'm looking at the schedule right.
We have
So
30 minutes at the beginning and 30 minutes at the end.
Okay.
So that's an hour total. Yeah.
So I think we want to make sure we're very sensitive to how we use their time. And if somebody can't stand up there and say, I live in Sedona, I understand the challenges, I think we'll lose the audience.
Mike, yeah, did you want to go ahead and add on to your comment you put in the chat as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I think I'm with Anne. I just, after what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, there's a certain amount of hostility towards anything. And so I think it's important that if we have some dynamic speakers that are local, it's going to give a lot more, I think, participation from people than someone coming in from, oh, I've planned here and I've planned here. And that's how these things work. It just kind of becomes an academic exercise for people who may not be willing to sit through that.
Monica, yeah, go ahead.
I agree. Sorry, it's my
mic. You're good.
I agree that I think charisma and keeping it short at the introduction here is probably more important if this is like a listening and learning session from the community. A couple charismatic speakers and kind of keep that brief, like Anne said, and hand it over to some of the community members instead of bragging about what they did in Aspen or Jackson Hole or whatever.
Okay. Others thoughts on that? Brian? Rick?
I already commented in the chat box that I support, local as possible speakers. And you were just mentioning, I think, in answering Ann's question about 30 minutes at the beginning, 30 minutes at the end. I hope you make sure that the folks that kind of manage the SPAC aren't going to be like literally kicking us out the door at the 2-hour mark, because at the end of literally at the community forums for the candidates we just had, they were like shutting the lights off and stuff, like right quick. And this is a great opportunity to be gathering input from the community. I'd hate to see us actually pushing folks out the door. I know that's not what you're asking about at the moment, but it was just top of mind a moment ago. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very, having done many a community meeting, that's why we reserve it for longer, recognizing that is not our intention, Brian, is to turn off the lights and kick people out. The longer people want to provide input that's helpful to the city and helpful to you all and helping synthesize this information that goes into the update, the longer, we'll stay. I mean, granted, we can only stay for so long, but we will not be turning off the lights at 7 p.m. Cynthia, you have an idea? Hit me.
Yes, so since you guys are talking about locals, one idea would be Max Leischer. I don't know how many people know who Max is. Anyone? No.
I do.
Okay, there's a few. So Max is a local architect. He has been involved in city planning from the resident point of view, as well as an architect. And so he's a visionary type of guy, and he's had these visions for the future of Sedona for 30 years. Some of them are on paper. The uptown, what was it called? The uptown, basically area plan he did, gosh, I don't know, in the 90s probably. Anyway, so he has the history, he has the vision. So that's an option. He also used to be partners with Mike Bauer, former architect who was on our steering committee 10 years ago. Mike retired, and I think he's living, I don't know, in Page Springs.
In Page Springs, yeah.
Page Springs, yeah. Anyway, Max and Mike were partners. So Max works for Design Group, which is on Jordan Road. And he lives over on Schnebly Hill Road. So anyway, he would be an interesting person to have as a keynote.
Thoughts from the group on that? I noticed that a couple people showed that they
Well, I
recognize the
think,
name.
again, I think that Max would be excellent because he is, like you said, he's a visionary. He's got the history of Sedona. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and he challenges your thinking, which is really good. What he may not be able to provide is that whole futurist thing, which I still think has value, and maybe we do it in smaller groups. And the reason is we've been hit with some things like the state and SB 1350 that we may, so somebody may say there's going to be a lot more of that coming, where the state may override some of your decisions. And it may look like that, retail is going to be stronger than ever or dying out, or the gap between, wages is going to grow. I mean, there are things that other people will know or have a better chance of knowing. There are things that we can't predict, but that I think is actually very beneficial when we're looking at this. How we do it, it doesn't matter to me. But if we decide to go with Max, I'm on board. I think Max would be good.
Sounds like he would also have some context for a listening and learning session as well, potentially, the one that's more directed at land use planning and growth potentially. If the group decided, we can always put the ask out there. We can put the ask out there to Max, to John O'Brien, to Tom Binnings, recognizing those are 3 local names, and see what comes back, who has availability. And then, if they don't have availability that day, or if we have to decide on one, we can follow up and ask them to participate in a different way as well. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm hearing, and I want to make sure that this is what I'm hearing, is that there's a little bit more of a desire to go the local route, given that that may hold a little bit more, I don't want to say prestige, but a little bit more like good standing with the community, is to have local folks who understand Sedona as a keynote speaker. Credibility. That's the word I was looking for, Rick. Thank you. Okay. Well, I mean, if that's the case, and I really want to make sure that everybody can speak their mind on this one, because if there is a desire to go bigger, we can reach out and go bigger. But I think what I'm hearing is that someone local, but that can also look to speaking to the future of cities that are feeling the same pains that Sedona is and planning into the future. Mike, I saw yourself take yourself off mute.
Oh,
no. Okay. I'm real keen on those who take themselves off mute, because it makes me think that you have something that you want to say. Okay, great. Okay. Well, we can go that route. That's great. If you guys have other folks that come up, Keegan on cue, it seems. What about Carol Goldsmith? She's a teacher at the high school and is well loved.
She's also raised a family here. She's been around probably longer than I have. She's just, I don't know if we want to teach her, but when she teaches, she speaks beautifully. I don't know if anyone knows her. I'm sure Linda, you know her, right?
Know her well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about her as a keynote?
Oh, no, I wouldn't put Carol as a
No?
keynote though.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
It might also be someone, Keegan, that we consider when you're talking about this pitch. You know, someone that people, a face that people know in town, someone who works with youth that is really concerned about, you know, the future of families and kids and education in Sedona. So we might think about her, and we can get into that in a minute here when we're talking about, you know, this short video that we want to put together that people will see and will hopefully use that as a reason to come to the community, the kickoff event, as well as the listening and learning sessions. Okay, I feel like we have more or less decided on going local, which is good because that gets us, I'm trying to find my, there we go. Okay, so we're going to reach out here. And who was the other one? Max. How do you spell his last name, Cynthia?
Licher.
Okay. So that's who we will additionally reach out to. We have already reached out to Kimber. She is probably going to be hopefully willing to participate at some level. So whether or not it's the keynote or whether it's later for the listening learning sessions, that would be good as well. Lich, thank you. Okay. All right, so when we're talking about the timing, you know, we want to have enough time for our friends at the Sedona Community Planning Department, Community Development, to give everybody an update about what this is and why it's important, in addition to having keynote speakers. So we want to have time for them to provide an overview, time for question and answer, and then, like you guys have been indicating, time to go back out, chat, and finish up these interactive activities, these exercises where we're really trying to solicit feedback. And so this is a working list. This is not set in stone. I want you guys to know that off the bat. But what we had envisioned is stations where people come in, they have stations that they can go to where it's not a huge ask. They can spend 5 minutes there, they can spend 10 minutes there, they can spend 2 minutes there. And so I saw this thing recently where I thought, oh gosh, this might be cool, where there's a station that's current Sedona. What are the challenges facing Sedona right now? And that can be paired with, because we always like to ask people to pair it with a solution. It's easy to come up with a million challenges, right? But when you have to think about a potential solution to these challenges, it makes people think a little bit more. So this is kind of this current Sedona station where they're talking about challenges and solutions. Then there's a future Sedona station, which is a big map of Sedona, and people can place sticky notes that are place-based. Where are there opportunities for future Sedona? And then there's another one that's called Ideal Sedona. And this gets at these big visions and values for an ideal Sedona that residents want to live in into the future. So we also, and this is, I mean, we could add as many things as we want to this list. It's always really great to have a long butcher paper on the wall that is a shared history. And that's where people can write, we start a timeline at who knows how far back to now. And what are all these important milestones that have happened to Sedona? That could be challenges, that could be great things, that could be, you know, all sorts of things, but it gives everybody a really big look, and it gives everybody a different perspective, something that you might put on the timeline is likely different than something someone else would put on the timeline, but those are important to two different people. So it's a good exercise to get at, you know, what is this shared history of this place? So that's a working list of 4, recognizing that we don't want to bombard the community with too many things, because we want to make sure that everyone has time to do all of the stations and do them in a way where they don't feel like they're being rushed off to the next thing. So any initial thoughts on those 4 potential exercises?
Could you give an example of a place-based opportunity?
Sure. I mean, I don't live there, so I can give an like, for example, if there's let's say there's a vacant lot that's next to you know, next to retail, you could put an opportunity sticker there. I would like to see this be, instead of more parking lots, I would like to see this as a parking structure. So you're maximizing height as opposed to sprawl. Everyone's going to have a different idea, you know, like maybe there's a city parcel that is zoned for a certain thing next to a city park, and they would like to see the park expanded. That could be a place-based opportunity. Does that make sense? So it's something that is specific to a location on a map, but that is an opportunity, like something that could happen in the future, not necessarily a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else have thoughts on that? Any of those activities? Good, bad? There's no way people are going to do that. Oh my gosh, people are going to love that. Any feedback?
I have a question.
I hope I have an answer.
How was it?
Are these activities going to be out there in that foyer area?
Yeah.
Okay. And in addition to that, would we still have the what I love about Sedona thing?
We could do that for sure.
But maybe that's a when you walk in the door type of a thing.
Mm-hmm. We could also have that, you know, when we give people that comment card, you know, at the beginning, it could be comments and questions on one side, and on the back, we could have some logo or something that says, what I love about Sedona. And people could turn that in at the end as well. So we could get at that what I love about Sedona in a couple of different ways, depending on what makes the most sense. So yeah.
And we had a workshop about, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. I know Keegan was there. I don't know if anyone else was. I think his name was Peter Kageyama. Anyway, he did an exercise like that ended up in this big, long poster where they put down everything that everybody loved. We still have that somewhere actually, but we could do something similar.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're lucky because the SPAC foyer is so big that we can move people through it so that not everybody's gonna be clustering around one thing. We can spread the activities out so that, and we can, the people who are, you know, at the registrations table, letting people know there's 4 stations. We really encourage you to move from one to another. There's time now, there'll be time after the presentation. So that we're getting folks to move, kind of make sure everybody sees every one of them. Yeah, Monica.
On the Ideal Sedona vision board with the big, beautiful photo of Sedona, people would write their ideas on sticky notes, or would there be an opportunity for like small icons that you could stick where you think a particular thing would be nice, like a bike lane or soccer field or something? Or is it just you just write on a sticky note and everyone sticks them at Red Rock Crossing or whatever?
Right. So I see 2 more hands up. Let me answer this question, then I'll get to Marcy and then to Mike. So the Ideal Sedona is kind of a little bit more of a vision and values. So I think the future Sedona, where there's the place space, that's where we're hoping. I mean, maybe that's we could do some icons there where it's like, you know, this map, there needs to be a bike lane here. Maybe we could pre-craft some icons. But for the Ideal Sedona, this is really like a Sedona that is inclusive, a Sedona that supports local families, that kind of thing. So that's what I had in mind. But that's totally up subject to change as well. So the ideal is more kind of a visions and values, and the future is more like, these are things that need to be in our community to like be a better Sedona. Does that make sense? And we would have really explicit instructions at all of these so that people are really clear at what we're asking them to do. Okay, Marcy, you had your hand up. Still have your hand up.
Oh, I have to put it down. I love the idea of the icons. If we had like little sidewalk magnets that we could put in places where we want sidewalks or bike paths or whatever, I think that's really cool. I had two questions, and I'm totally blanking. One was on keeping up with the positive theme, and it's probably for Keegan to come up with afterwards, but for all the things that we love about Sedona, it would be great if Keegan and Lauren could come up with a hashtag that's something positive that we can keep it going so that we can, just keep the conversation as positive as possible. And I'm totally blanking on the other idea I had. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We had a conversation about having you guys help come up with like a slogan or some kind of positive thing surrounding this community engagement effort. So that speaks to that hashtag that, can be put on all the media materials, all the outreach materials that can be used on social media, etc., so that everybody, when they see it, knows that you guys and the community are speaking to this effort. So on
If I remember the other thing, I'll put my hand up again. Sorry.
You remembered? Did you remember your thing or no, not yet?
No, I said if I remember the other one, I'll put my hand up again. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we need to make it kind of what you were just saying about solutions. I think when we give them like a whiteboard next to it or something, that we just be really explicit, like, hey, future solutions, positivity, like not turn into a complaint fest, but actually like, hey, I really want your input on ideas, because that's kind of what we're after anyway in this whole project. They need to be thinking forward, not complaints about everything, and however we can streamline it and encourage that strongly from the first day is what we need to do.
Terry?
Yes, Linda.
And
then Anne, I saw your hand up, Anne.
So that's where I was getting at and when opening this, and I'm just concerned again. We get stuck on challenges, and I was picturing something like, and forgive me for throwing this out, one of the tables or one of the big boards being why I love Sedona.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't get enough of that. I think that's a cool thing to have. And maybe another one, I picture my Sedona having, and it can be anything then. It can be, for me, I want more young families. I want more dogs around town. I want more people walking and running into each other. And other people may say, I want fewer tourists, or I want tourists that really love our community and know how to be respectful of our environment, whatever it is. So it's more open-ended to ask them to, and it'd be easy to say more bike paths, more opportunities to walk and bike. They don't have to know where they go. They can if they want to say where, but I think in this general session, just having them say, one of the things I had brought up for seniors and mothers with baby strollers is a covered walking somewhere, with even misters, so they can be out, when it's hot and miserable, something along that line. And that's how I kind of had envisioned it, is why I love Sedona, and I picture my Sedona having just let it be, and see what they come up with. Because we will get challenges, we will get solutions, we will get idealistic, notions. We'll get it all, and maybe we can simplify it a little bit. So anyway, that was my thought.
Thank you, Linda. I'm trying to capture these and I know that Jessica will as well. So I love this. And I see Marcy, you got your hand back up. Mike, I'm going to hit you first. And then Marcy, you can, hopefully it's the thing that you forgot. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was done. Let me lower my hand. I just didn't lower it for the first time, I guess. Okay.
Okay, great. Marcy, you're up.
Sorry, my senior moment. It was, can we have places for people to sign up based on their interest for the future sessions? I assume you have that covered, but you know, if land use is their thing, or environmentalism, or business, or whatever their particular, can they have the chance then to sign up for the future sessions so that we make sure to invite them to future listening sessions or learning sessions, or whatever we call them?
Yeah, we can totally do that. So that is one more. So that's why it's so important that we have this work session, the 17th and the 31st, because there is a lot of these things. So great suggestion. There's a lot of these things that need to be lined out, right? And we still haven't gotten all the community listening and learning sessions lined out yet, as far as speakers, topics, and then kind of what are those catchy phrases to talk about land use without saying we're talking about land use. So yes, I think, you know, when people sign in, when they sign in with their name and their email, having all those columns I'm interested in, and they can put an X next to all the things they're interested in. That way we can make sure to email them with the registration link of those particular things. So yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Was there someone else that I missed that had their hand up? Anne, yes, go ahead.
I love the idea of when they walk in, having to put up why they love Sedona. I'm 100% for that, because it certainly puts them in the right frame of mind for the event. Current Sedona, excellent. Future Sedona, with the aspect of, I wish we had a community park here, or very specific things. Ideal Sedona, I would say maybe frame it what I want Sedona to look like in 10 years. You know, because ideal is too visionary, you know, just put yourself in Sedona 10 years from now, describe what it will look like. And they might say more family, more kids, more community, but that's to me more tangible to put it in that way. I would leave out the shared history thing. I think it's interesting, but not as productive as the other things that we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, the shared history wasn't calling me. But I do like telling them to come early, meet your, you know, come visit with your neighbors, have some refreshments.
Yep.
You know, and yeah, we want your feedback right away. Get started.
Well, it's not in 10 years, I'd like to see more. It's put yourself 10 years ahead. What are you seeing in Sedona? What is your vision of Sedona? You know.
Okay. Brian, I saw you waving your hand.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do we really need current Sedona? I mean, we just got 600 surveys that gave people 3 opportunities to say, you know, what they think about current Sedona that you've coded and so forth. I mean, do we really think we're going to learn anything new? I mean, is it simply to let people come in and vent that maybe didn't fill out the survey? Because I really kind of question, what are we going to learn that we don't already know?
Oh, I thought their job was to put down solutions.
What's that? I'm sorry.
What's that?
I thought the whole point of that one was they would put potential solutions to those current challenges, not add more current challenges. So.
Well, we could, I mean, that's all of this is up for, you know, on the chopping block necessary. Yeah. So we love, because we know people will continue to highlight challenges. This one is to ask them to pair it with a solution, because if you don't, like, you know, if you don't offer the opportunity for folks to speak about challenges or concerns, it's going to come out during the question and answer, or it's going to come out in the, you know, so I think offering one station that can be a little bit more, we could even list the current challenges and people can put solutions on there, right? So that we are letting them know that they've been heard regarding challenges. And then here we are asking you for your personal idea on how to address these challenges. Does that sound a little bit more, optimistic, future driven?
That's
Sure,
what I
but
thought.
how does that become different than the future Sedona, which is the next line item?
May I answer?
Yeah.
To me, the current challenge is short-term rentals. Do you have any ideas about what you would do about short-term rentals now that, or workforce or affordable housing? So they can throw out ideas. Future Sedona is they're actually looking at a map and saying, I wish this piece of property right here by the creek was a city park and not going to be a resort. And then Ideal Sedona would be 10 years from now, we've actually built enough housing such that the people that work in Sedona live in Sedona. That's a big vision, but that's an example.
All right, Ann, you had me at creek. I'm
Hold
I'm
that
rolling over
vision,
now.
Ann. You just hold on to that example.
Okay, so still a work in progress, but I mean, do we like that? So it seems like
I want to just say, Carrie, I'm gonna give it one more shot. I picture my Sedona having blank, and we can add by blank. I picture my Sedona having alternative transportation by having an electric lane, for small vehicles in town. Now you can handle the challenge and you can handle, a solution.
So is that a future Sedona or is that a current Sedona? Because I put
It's
it right
both.
here as a
It's
future.
both.
Okay.
And that way we don't have as many repetition, but when they throw it out, they can provide the solution right there. And it's visionary.
Okay. So it's like a
Practical
it's
and
like a mapping
practice-
Mad Libs.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
you remember
right.
Mad Libs? No.
On any topic they want.
Pick a noun and pick a solution. Okay, I like it. Others have thoughts on this? I do, because there is someone on here who I don't recognize the name. It's your Zoom name says Maya and Aratanza. Is that you? Who is that?
I'm sorry, I forgot to change the name. Those are my daughters, but my name is Liliana.
Okay, great. That's who I thought you were, but I'm so sorry that I
Yes.
didn't let you introduce yourself. This is by all of you coming to consensus as the new addition to the work group. Liliana, I want to give you right before the break. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, and we can all say welcome.
Thank you. Well, my name is Liliana Morales, and I've been in Sedona for 22 years, almost 23 years. So I grew up pretty much in Sedona. I'm from Mexico City. I work here in Sedona, and I also live just right behind Tlaquepaque. So I know very well the area. Very well known in the Hispanic population. Pretty much everybody knows me, kind of. I work at Chase for several years. I have worked in several resorts, Hilton, Namara, all Sedona Center, all Sinagua Plaza. I work at National Bank of Arizona, and right now I'm a realtor.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining. Apologies on my late welcoming to you. We're so glad that you could join relatively last minute, but again, we're so happy to have an additional work group member, and thanks for bringing your perspectives. Feel free to chime in at any point. I'm sorry I haven't called on you because I wasn't totally clear. So if there's anything that we've talked about that you want to provide feedback on, put it in the chat, raise your hand. We'd be happy to have your contributions.
Carrie, does she prefer?
I'm sorry. I did write down a couple of things that I thought I should bring it up.
Okay.
Well, somebody mentioned about affordable housing, especially for the workforce in Sedona. I work everywhere, and I noticed that because of the lack of affordable housing, people are leaving. So maybe even the teachers, like my daughter's school, their teachers every year they turn around because they don't have affordable housing. So maybe city can have some grants for teachers, help them for rent, like affordable housing, something like that for the teachers that they arrive to Sedona. So help them to make a stay in town. What else did I write? More school opportunities. We don't have pretty much a local gathering for our local residents. Like Flagstaff has the little Times Square where they can gather on Christmas or New Year's. We do have like a package, but it's not like a city owned. So that would be something really good especially for locals.
Great. Thank you for that. And good question from the chat. Thank you, Linda. Do you prefer to be called Lily or Liliana?
Sorry, my daughter is pressing in the Liliana is the same.
Okay.
Both. Yes.
Okay. Well, again, welcome. Thank you for your contributions. We appreciate it. It's 4:10. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back, and Keegan is going to highlight kind of all of your guys' opportunities for being involved in the pitch. All right. So 5 minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, if everybody could get back on to their videos. Thank you. Hopefully you guys all got to stretch your legs for a minute.
Maya.
Okay, so we chatted about this idea, the last work group meeting, about how, what, I can't remember. Did you say, how'd you say it, Mercy? That the launch is episode 1, but that we need a trailer to get people hooked. I think it was like you and Mike had this great analogy about movies and or episodes or season premieres. Anyway, so with that, we are so lucky to have Keegan, who is working with the communications, and she has a marketing background. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you, Keegan, to give us your thoughts on this, and then we can have discussion about from the group about who should be doing it and all that stuff.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Do you mind if I share my screen just so or can you put the document up?
You can go ahead.
I'll share it. There. Closing the chat. Oh, sorry. Just 1 second. Share screen. Share. So I wasn't at the meeting where you discussed this, but Carrie and Andy and everybody gave me a really good overview of what was said. And I went ahead and put together, with your feedback and with the help of the rest of the City of Sedona city team, put together this really basic draft of what a video could look like to premiere the start of Plan Sedona, really in general. So it mainly talks about, here, I can make it a little bigger too. There we go. So based on what you said today, I know that we definitely need a theme. Hashtags, there were a few hashtags, well, a few things that you kept saying over and over again that weren't a hashtag that I made into a hashtag, like My Sedona, Future Sedona, My Sedona Vision, or just Sedona Vision. And then I loved Alicia's Plan Your Sedona. It's pretty direct. I like those all. So any thoughts about hashtags or a general theme? And typically the hashtag would accompany the theme. So if we want to go with Plan Your Sedona, then maybe our theme is Make Your Voice Heard, Plan Your Sedona for the next 10 years, or something more catchy than that. But it could be Plan Your Sedona, Get Involved Now, or whatever the case is. Any thoughts on that before we move into the script and the flow of the video? And I can't see who's raising their hand, so if you could just unmute yourself if your hand's raised. Okay.
I'll be watching for hands too, Keegan.
Okay, cool. All right, go ahead and just call on them if
Oh, Linda, go ahead.
Oh, it's not so much for me about what it ends up saying. I just like it to have a personal element to it, because I think by putting in a personal type of a name, people will take it that way. And it says that, oh, this is my Sedona. My voice will be heard, or whatever it is. Just something that implies something personal about this plan, that it's not the city doing it. It's not outside of you, but it's you. You know, it's me living in Sedona and the future of this town.
okay.
Good luck.
What about something as simple as Make Your Voice Heard, Plan Your Sedona? Or Plan Your Future Sedona? Okay. Well, I'm gonna just leave that up there so you guys can let it brew in your brains a little bit. If you have any thoughts, just put it in the chat. Okay, so basically we've come together with a video plan and kind of how it might flow and who might be involved. So I'm just going to go over it really, really quickly, and then we'll go back up to the top and talk about who the best work group members are, what are the best questions to be asked, because these are really just placeholders. we've thought about this over the past week and a half, but it's ultimately the work group who should give a lot of input and really be involved on this video. And let me just say something before we start. I'm not a videographer, and I do reels on Instagram, and I do stuff on iMovie. So I'm going to be doing this project, and just know that it's going to be an internal video. There's not going to be any money spent on it other than my time. So don't be too harsh on me. Just kidding. You can be harsh. I got some thick skin. Okay, so the intro is we thought we'd start off with 2 questions. What do you love about Sedona? What's your vision for a more improved Sedona? And those could be asked by 2 work group members in succession. Then we'll go into what is the plan, either by Cynthia or Jess, or maybe a different staff member, I'm not sure. And then we could ask, why does it matter? We can talk about it's guided by the residents. We want to involve as many locals as possible. We want to tell how the plan will affect residents in the future, and then go into why it's exciting. I think saying the years of how this plan will come to fruition, 2023 to 2033, that's a really long time. And I think it might get people excited to really be involved in a plan, a 10-year plan. We'll talk about how it guides future decision-making and development, and provide some more examples. Number 3 is why residents should get involved. And I think this would be a really great place for work group member number 3, who would probably have the biggest part in this video, and probably the one, maybe we can nominate someone later, you can step up, whatever. But this person hopefully will have a good presence within the community. They'll be known and respected. I think that could be any of you. So I'm not trying to point out anybody, but this person could talk about ensuring community vitality, making sure your voice gets heard. This person could also talk about how residents get involved in the plan. So I thought about the situation, about some play on words like getting motivated, getting engaged, and getting educated, or maybe getting inspired, educated, and engaged. I'm not sure what that looks like, but we could talk about the listening and learning in-person event as our main feature, September 7th, 5 to 7 at SPAC, getting engaged with the listening and learning virtual sessions, and then getting educated at plansedona.gov website. And then I don't even know if we have a student in mind, but I thought it'd be really good time to bring in a student or a younger person to talk about the future of Sedona and how they plan to, I don't know, live here and work here and finish high school here and maybe go to college at Yavapai, or I mean anything that's inspirational, talking about how this is this kid's home, this is the kid's future, this is what the kid needs and wants from this community. I did coach the high school swim team for a number of years, so I have a pretty good connection with a lot of high school swimmers if we can't find anyone else, but I thought that would be a good placeholder. And then maybe the entire work group says the theme or the hashtag or the website, something of great importance that ends the video with a call to action. So let's just start back at the top because I ran over that really quickly. What do you think of the intro and the 2 questions that we're proposing? What do you love about Sedona, and what is your vision for a more improved Sedona or better Sedona?
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, Keegan, a couple of quick thoughts. I love what do you love about Sedona? And maybe the second one for me could be, what is your vision for Sedona in the next 10 years? So that we know it's not just about what's improved, but maybe we want to retain something. The other thing I thought would be great is, as we're filming people, film some of them in what they do. So you've got somebody on a it doesn't have to be elaborate, but maybe one person is like a hiker and they're in their hiking gear. And you have a high school who's a swimmer and they just answer, something, a question. And maybe every person doesn't answer everything on here. I wasn't sure how you were going to work that, but say if it was something that I would do, it might be, hey, I really, care about workforce housing, and for many reasons, here's 2 reasons. And I'd love to, talk about some exciting ideas and ways we can bring housing to Sedona. Something simple, so it's not long, but they recognize faces, and we name 1 thing or 2 things. And this is the chance to bring up big ideas that we had been talking about, which I do like. Why is it exciting? Why does it matter? This is our opportunity to bring in things we might not have considered before.
Okay, great. You've brought up a really good point. I love that question. I should have mentioned earlier that this video is hopefully going to be 2 to 3 minutes. So each of these questions is like 10 seconds. Like, I love Sedona because it's my home and it's beautiful. I love Sedona because I hike every day. I love Sedona because I work here and it provides for my family. I mean, those are all like really small snippets that someone say, but I love filming each person in a place of interest. I'm going to be a little honest here. I broke my ankle in 3 places. So unless we decide, I can't walk very well, and I come back to the office on the 8th, but I can meet you somewhere, but I'm not going to be like hiking with you. But I love that idea of like being in different locations around Sedona. So I think we can figure that out, whether it's someone filming themselves or your partner films.
Something simple, because there's the bridge group that plays, at the Elks Club, and somebody turns from the table and looks at the camera, and they're like 70, which is awesome. And they say their quick piece. And you have somebody who's on a bike and they stopped for a minute to answer your question. So it doesn't have to be real. Monica can turn away from her coffee for just a minute. Mike can stop at the store and he can turn around and he can turn and answer the question. I just think it'd be cool.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so any other comments about just the introduction and any nominees for who this? I think we have a bunch of amazing work group members. I would love to keep it within this work group, just because if we start branching out, it'll be more complicated having to meet with them in their area. But I think we have enough diverse group members to where we could probably keep it pretty simple. So any more thoughts or nominations on who these people could be, or anyone interested?
Yeah, and just to Linda's point as well, like this probably won't be the only time that we can do like a little pitch with a video. So like to your point, Linda, when you say like who you are and what you're really passionate about, that's a great clip for before the listening and learning session about housing, So we could have the intention, and I think that we talked about this before, Keegan, that this is for the first launch and that we can do some subsequent ones following up.
Okay. Got it.
So that we can have more maybe potentially specific to the listening and learning session. But for this one, it's going to be kind of like something that can go on Instagram, something go on Facebook, that's going to be short and that's really about kind of this launch effort. That was our thought, right, Keegan? I'm using
That's
ours
good.
because I'm hoping that was our thought.
Love it.
Great.
I like to help plan our future, but help plan our future.
And then Monica, did I see your hand up earlier? I thought maybe you had your hand up or maybe you didn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just was wondering if where you have work group member little suggested assignments here, is that us being like, what do you love about Sedona? Or it sounds like actually it's us being like, the great coffee or whatever,
So what I was envisioning, and this could be totally changed, I'm flexible, is that it starts off by saying, Monica, you would say, what do you love about Sedona? And Linda would say, what's your vision for a better Sedona? Or whatever the case is. And then Cynthia would dive in and say, the community plan, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, it really just be like an opening question to start getting your mind thinking about, what do I love about Sedona? How could I make Sedona better if I was really planning it? Oh, I can plan it. Thanks, Cynthia. Like, that's what I was thinking. But we could also go in your direction. Like, I love the coffee. I love the creek. I love the mountains. I love the stores, whatever.
No, that is not my direction.
Okay.
I understood it the way that you explained it. Yes, where we're just speaking the question.
Okay.
Well, and I think that that's, you know, like, because we're going to be, per your guys' suggestion, we're asking everyone to say to write down what they love about Sedona when they come in the door at the beginning of this, you know, this launch, that's starting out the video with, what do you love about Sedona? People can think about it. So they might already be prepped a little bit before they come to the event. And so when they do come, they will have already thought about, you know, what it is that they love. Alicia, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. It took me a minute to find the unmute button. I love this script, Keegan. I think it's amazing. And especially in the fact that you're injured and you were able to whip this up. I like the idea of it. I just want to, I felt like it needs to be said, I&D, diversity and inclusion. If we bring a student in, can we potentially try to make it a student that represents some of the other people in our community that aren't well represented in this group or in other things that we put out? And my next request is, can we add a line in there that's in Spanish? So those are my only things. You guys discuss those amongst yourself. That's the only thing I wanted to point out.
I love that. Maybe one of the questions can be in Spanish. And one of my favorite swimmers, her name is Serena. She is half Hispanic and she can speak Spanish as well. So I don't know. I don't really know too many non-white kids. But that's not a Marcy. You have a question or a comment?
I was gonna say, go to the library on a Wednesday, and I picked up Emma today. It's a rainbow. So if you want to have diversity and representation in a location, that's one idea. But I was gonna say, this is great, and you're hurting a whole bunch of busy cats. So feel free to just make us your subjects and be the director and say, answer these 2 questions, stand here, you know, just like, please direct us. And I don't want to speak for everybody else, but whatever you want us to do or to shoot, feel free to be the boss on this and tell us where you want to go and how, you know, what questions you want us to answer and how you want to film it if you're not going to film it yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on filming it myself. That was my goal. But then we wouldn't be able to do Linda's idea of like meeting them in certain places. It'd just be really hard for me to get there because I'm on crutches. But I like your idea. I want to take control. I don't want to be bossy, but if you want me to, just to get this done and out of the way, I can put on my bossy pants. So
I nominate bossy pants.
Okay.
Well, and I think, I mean, that's great. And I think that part of what we were hoping to get out of today was to get 3 work group members ready for these 3 slots, so that ideally we had thought about, and this doesn't speak quite to what Linda had mentioned as far as getting people in their element, but that Keegan could come to the work group meeting on the 17th and afterwards outside when the light is a little bit more golden hour, that they could all be, that you all, the 3 could be, or 4, depending on how this all rolls out, all be videoed then. So that we could just, you know, because the idea, and hopefully we can get to kind of this timeline. So we're hoping to launch all the media outreach effort for the September 7th event on August 24th, 2 weeks ahead of time. So we want to make sure that Keegan's not like filming people on the 23rd and like putting together her iMovie at midnight on the 23rd. I mean, if you want to, Keegan, that sounds great. But if you don't want to, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this ahead of time now, knowing that we're all going to be together on the 17th, so that Keegan could kind of like, everybody's here. We're going to, you know, this person's going to say this person's going to say this person's going to say this, and I'm going to video them all right now.
Does everyone like that idea as far as I think right now we're at 4 work group members who would have 3 that would have a very small part and that we could get done in the very beginning, and it would take probably 5 minutes with 3 retakes. And the other group member number 4 could stay after, and it might take maybe 10 minutes to say 1 minute worth of, or 45 seconds worth of material. Does that sound okay? I guess I don't know who I'm talking to because we haven't been nominated or no one stepped up yet. But Liliana, I would love if you'd be the one to speak in Spanish since you're from Mexico, if you're okay with that. Okay, well, we can talk about that some other time.
Yes, 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 yes. I can help you on any translation, paper or simultaneously translate.
Okay.
Thank you, Lily.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and do that right now, Keegan? Get like Liliana will do 1 Spanish question, and we need 3 more work group members who, you know, you guys are, you know, well known in the community. We're trying also to make sure that this is like not political, not partisan. So those of you who are running or in a position of political nature, we would like you to be as involved as you'd like, but maybe not in the video for the pitch. Hopefully you guys all recognize that we're trying to keep this as apolitical as possible. And Linda also nominates Monica. Marcy also nominates Monica. Monica, how do you feel about it? Okay, great. Monica's in.
Okay, Monica, do you want to be number 1, number 2, or number 4?
Oh my gosh. One of the
bigger
short
part.
lines. What do you love about Sedona?
Great.
Oh gosh.
I think we need a gentleman to do the second line.
Yeah.
Any
Mike?
volunteer?
Mike, do you want to volunteer? Sure, he says, in almost all caps. It means he's real excited.
I would do it now or retired. Let's see, because you've got Liliana, Monica, Mike, and somebody retired.
Okay.
Male.
Okay. Mike said he'll do number 4. And we can, do you think we can volunteer Ernie to do number 2?
Sure.
Oh no, Keegan's
Don't hear
Zoom
me.
meetings is not responding. Don't worry, Keegan, we're taking notes.
Can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, if you could take notes, that'd be great. It really wants me to close the program, but I don't think I'm going to. Okay, so
Monica.
go ahead.
I said I'm on it. Does Jessica?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to, Keegan, you can stop sharing screen. That might help. Just as far as, or maybe, I don't know if you're going to be able to with your spinning wheel.
It won't allow me to do anything.
Okay.
Sorry, Carrie, do you want to just keep going and I'll try to log back in real quick? Sorry, I don't want to take up too much time.
Sure, absolutely. So so recognizing that there's 4 of you who are committed to saying, so 3 of you will say questions. Mike, you will kind of why should you get involved with the plan? Those will be videoed ideally after or before we can talk with Keegan, the work group meeting on the 17th. So we can get those kind of spliced together. Likewise, we'll have to schedule Keegan with Cynthia and Jess to give their short little bit about why does the plan matter? Why is this important? Etc. Let me see if I can.
Keegan, if you want to meet me at the library next Wednesday, I could try to wrangle some kids for you.
Do we need to make sure that they have permission
Mhm.
to be on a video, a public video? I mean, just for the sake of making sure that, that's
Yeah,
okay.
probably do.
Yep, you're probably right.
Do you want to give permission for your daughter?
She is adorable. She would be perfect. But I didn't want to volunteer her.
If she wants to, obviously, if she wants to, we don't want to.
I'll ask. I torture her, but there's a couple other kids.
Okay.
A couple kids of people that work at the library that'll be there that I can ask their parents.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, we can coordinate that with Keegan as well, Marcy, so that if you can give her a time and a date to be there when that you'll be able to, and Keegan can also ask if their parents are there, if there's permission, and they can step outside and do a quick bit. That would be really great. Thank you all so much for participating, for signing up. Everyone else will have the opportunity as well to do a short video clip, maybe based on like a topic of which you are very interested or passionate, that we will have a listening and learning session on. So this isn't going to be the only opportunity. If you're feeling like, gosh, I wish I was working group member number 3, and you want to do it next time. Linda, I see you shaking your head. Anne, yeah, go ahead.
At some point, you're going to assign the stations that we have at the event.
Mhm.
Is that something we can sign up for?
Yes. So
Okay.
today was really outlining. We have an in-person meeting on the 17th where we're really going to start dialing in on all the materials we need, how we're going to set it up, who's going to be there to help, what are the written instructions that you guys all have, right? So regarding the timing for you all on the 7th, SDR and the city will be at the SPAC at 3:00. Recognizing that it's going to be open to the public at 5, but all of us have probably been to a public event where someone showed up at 4:45. So if you have the availability, well, first of all, it would be great that if everyone of the working group could be there from 5 to 7. If you have the availability to be there at 4 to help us, so we can get everything dialed in, we can make sure everyone is on point on what location, what activity they're helping with, what it's going to look like. That would be super helpful. So, and I know that this is a month away, but the more we can kind of get these details refined, the better. All right. We have 5 minutes left before public comment. And I just wanted to give you guys, I know that you guys have had a quick opportunity to look at this table that has the schedule, but this is kind of what we're working on. So I sent this all to you guys in an email. Here we are. We have our pitch speaker selection. It would also be really great if every member between now and the 17th could write 1 to 2 sentences on why you think your community, your fellow community members should participate in this community plan process. That would be great, because we're going to have other materials where we would like to use bits as quotes, like written materials. And so if everyone could write down 1 to 2 sentences on why you would like, if you were talking to your neighbor, why should they participate in this process? That way we can use some of those throughout on some marketing materials. So that would be really helpful. That's your homework between now and the 17th. Thank you, Jessica, for putting that in the chat. We have a postcard in process that is going to go out to every current resident address in Sedona. This is going to be a beautiful picture of Sedona, and it's going to say Sedona Community Plan Update, and below it, it will probably say #Plan Your Sedona. And then on the back, it's basically going to give the location, the time of the kickoff event, and then a small blurb at the bottom that says, starting at the end of September, we'll have listening and learning sessions. Go to the website for more information. So this is going to be another way to get people there, people who aren't on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. but that have a mailing address. So everyone will get one of those. So yeah, this is kind of all the nuts and bolts of things that need to happen. The 17th, we have our in-person meeting. We're going to have a lot more detail to flesh out regarding the kickoff session, as well as this schedule and sequence of the listening and learning sessions, right? We're going to spend a ton of time promoting and getting all the details for the launch, but we can't forget that we have an additional 7 to 8 virtual sessions that we need to plan and get speakers for. Postcards go out on the 19th, and then all of the media launch starts on the 24th. So this is when we're going to be asking you all and all of your networks to promote this through all technical, digital media, hard, like copy media, etc. We have our last virtual work session before the launch on the 31st. That's a Wednesday, 3 to 5. We're going to be finalizing details, refining last minute roles, and all of that stuff, as well as details for the listening and learning sessions, which we'll have some more time to prep for, but just kind of getting the ball rolling on those as well. Then on the 7th, SDR and the city of Sedona are going to arrive at 3. Work group arrives at 4. We're not going to do catering. We're going to do refreshments, because it turns out if you have it fully catered, whew, that is one pretty penny. So we are going to provide lots of robust refreshments for folks, but we're going to do all of that kind of in-house. So we'll buy it all and set it all up, and we won't need a caterer to come in and set it up and take it down. And then we will be ready for the inevitable first participant to show up at 4:45. Any questions about this timeline? I know it's fast and furious, but hopefully you guys have had a chance to look at this, or you can look at it in your inbox after today.
Make sure you put refreshments on that postcard, Carrie.
Yes, thank you. Refreshments provided. Keegan, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that. That took forever to get back.
No problem.
Did you keep going with the video, or did you move on to timeline?
So I did the video. We need to, Marcy said that she would coordinate with you about potentially coming to the library, and if there's parents there that can provide an okay, like a permission for their kids to be videoed. She said she was going to coordinate a time to do that with you.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, and then I asked everyone who is going to be getting videoed, do you want to do that before the work group meeting at 3 or after the work group meeting at 5 on the 17th?
I would think after, just so it's cooler, but I'm open to either one.
Okay. That sounds great. And that's kind of where
what did everyone else want? Okay, sounds good. Okay,
right.
so should we keep going with the video, or do you want, or are we good with the video?
I think we're good for right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Monica says before would work for her on the 17th. So we can, we have 2 weeks until then, so we can coordinate all those details. All right, I also asked everyone, Keegan, just so you know, to write 1 to 2 sentences that they can provide to us about what they would tell their neighbor about why to participate. So we can use kind of quotes in some of our printed media or some of our, Facebook postings or on the website. So everyone has that job to get those to us before the meeting on the 17th.
Love it.
Great.
Those would be really good social posts too.
Yeah. Okay. We have 10 minutes. I want to provide time for public comments. You guys have your to-dos, which is just, and we'll let Ernie know that he got voluntold that he is going to say a certain thing. And then SDR will work with the city and we're with Keegan on kind of refining what exactly we're going to ask you to say and kind of a little bit more detail in that pitch document. Does that sound good, Keegan?
Yes, awesome.
Cool. All right. Looks like we have one member of the public. JT, did you want to provide any comment on the meeting today?
Just to say, I think what you're doing is great. I can't wait to attend. Keep it up. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Any last takeaways from any of you? Any last things that we didn't hit fast and furious today in today's meeting? Want to provide a little bit of time for anybody to round robin today. Are you guys feeling good? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling like there's not enough detail? Let us know so we can help you out. Good, great. I'm seeing some nods. Excellent. Yes, nodding. Thank you, Brian. Okay, well, we're out early. Nobody ever complains about getting done early. That never happens. Thank you guys all so much. This was super productive, really helpful. We really appreciate your suggestions, some great recommendations on the speakers and those interactive exercises. So thank you so much for that. Liliana, so glad that you could join us, and we will see you all in person. Not 100% sure about the location yet, unless Cynthia can give us the location of the meeting on the 17th. Nope, not yet.
I probably have it, but not handy.
That's okay. No problem.
Jerry, before we sign off, we wanted to thank you for doing a fantastic job of facilitating.
Oh, thanks. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's hot in here and I'm blushing. So now I'm red and sweaty.
Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you
Carrie.
guys all so much. And we'll
Thank
get the
you,
notes
Carrie.
out to you, and we'll see you guys all in 2 weeks.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jessica.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye for now.